As Hurricane Helene has ravaged our eastern seaboard, the shocking truth has emerged. FEMA, the agency tasked with helping Americans in crisis, is nowhere to be found. Why? Because they've diverted hundreds of millions of your tax dollars to illegal immigrants. That's right, folks. While American citizens are literally drowning, the Biden Harris administration is handing out cash to people who shouldn't even be in this country. But it gets worse. Wait until you hear about the helicopter pilot threatened with arrest for trying to save lives. Now, check this out. Are you listening? As Hurricane Helene exposes government failures, our national debt has surpassed $35 trillion. The U.S. is borrowing to pay interest, digging a deeper hole. Meanwhile, gold surpassed $2,400 an ounce. Smart money is shifting to gold and silver. If you have funds in a low-interest account or 401k IRA, call Global Gold Investments, America's leading conservative precious metals dealer. Get their free 2024 Protect Your Wealth and Retirement Guide. Call that number on the screen, 888-700-4148. Mention Next News for 5-star treatment and complimentary portfolio analysis. Visit IRAGoldproof.com. It's linked below. Remember, if you don't have gold, you don't have wealth. Okay. Leading report just 4 hours ago. Biden-Harris administration says FEMA does not have enough funds to make it through hurricane season following the allocation of billions in foreign aid. Wall Street Apes 5 hours ago. Everyday Americans are using their helicopters to bring aid to Hurricane Helene victims, and the Kamala Harris administration is threatening to arrest these people for trying to help their fellow Americans. Listen to this.
Area is, and it's not. Well, guys, today's video was supposed to be of flying this helicopter back to the house, and I'm still going to put all that footage in the end of this video. But as you can see, Consuela is a little dirty. She has had a busy couple of days working hard, and she's no longer brand new, you could say. She's still in good shape, but she took a beating over the weekend, and I'll tell you why. And I didn't intend for this to be really a portion of this video. It just kind of happened, and I wore my helmet cam while we were out doing some disaster relief in North Carolina. Basically, on Saturday, I was with Maddie, my wife, and we were gonna go grab some dinner when I got a call from a friend up in North Carolina. His name's Rudy, and he said, hey man, we need some helicopters up here. The hurricane damage is really bad. And there's a lot of people trapped in the mountains. So my wife and I got someone to watch the kids. We loaded up with one bag and flew to North Carolina with no plan and posted that we were on our way. And by the time I got there, I probably had 500 emails and a ton of text messages. And my post had been shared thousands of times. And we were blown away. We're like, what is going on? How bad is this deal? So we get into North Carolina. We end up staying at Greg Biffle's house because there's no power in the Asheville area. So we couldn't really stay close to where all the damage was. We load Consuela up with water and fuel. Next morning, take off and fly into just some things that I've never seen before. And some really, really bad situations for people. Like, I can't really describe it well, but I have some videos on my helmet cam that I'm gonna put in this video. And I'm not putting them in there to try and grow my YouTube channel. I'm simply putting them in there to give you a perspective of how bad the damage in the Asheville area is. And it's not just Asheville, it is spread so far into the mountains of North Carolina. And these areas we're flying in are some of the worst areas to fly a helicopter. And I'm talking about the tightest LZs, sloped landings inside of tight landing zones. It was absolutely wild. Consuela, my helicopter, just performed absolutely flawless. I didn't think this was the right helicopter for the job, but I had the ability to take insulin, food, water into the tightest spots in the area and drop them off and get them to people in need and then haul people out. Yeah, she got a little beat up. She got puked in. There's Chinooks and Blackhawks everywhere. There's a C-17 Globemaster at the airport, and they're working like crazy. Some of my friends brought in some sick helicopters. A lot of these guys just did an amazing job, and this flying is no joke. I'm talking no joke. So a huge thank you to all the pilots who were a part of it, and a thank you to Thoroughbred Aviation for giving me a safe helicopter. It's just been the craziest couple days of my life, and I wanted to share some of these clips. So let's get to that, and then we'll get to the original idea of this video, which is picking up my brand This is probably the hardest landing I did. You got power lines there on the left, a house directly under the helicopter right now. This takes every ounce of horsepower the helicopter has, and we're also full of supplies. Now, we did calculate weight and balances before we took off for these flights, and you can just see how tight it is. This is where the MD 500 shines, and the residents were putting X's on the roads where we could possibly set down, and that was really helpful to spot where these guys needed help. And then when we would land, we would talk to them and say, hey, go clear a bigger LZ, and then maybe they can bring it.
You know, these guys, these are the real heroes. While FEMA is out there handing out money to illegals, you got real American heroes who are being told not to help their fellow Americans. Corey Mills, currently in North Carolina trying to rescue Americans, stating FEMA is largely missing in action because it's diverted resources for immigration resettlement. And wait till you hear what Kamala Harris has said about how much money is going to go to these families. But let's get Corey Mills first.
Observing there, and Corey Mills, he's been on the ground there for days, helping to deliver much-needed supplies to those hard-hit areas and evacuate some who are stranded. As you remember, he helped rescue Americans from war zones in Afghanistan, also
that was that, you know, the people were wanting. And so we've delivered now about 5 tons worth of supplies, about roughly 10,000. We've actually transported about 12,000 pounds between the 2 helicopters that we brought in, much of which is the only place that you can get in is by rotary wing helicopter. So we've gone into Broad River, South Toe. We've gone into Banner Elk, Asheville, Burnsville. We've gone into Holler. We've continued to try and go to at least 5 or 6 different locations, either conducting search and rescue operations to drop SAR, to do health and welfare checks on family members who's gone missing, or even just doing distribution for Starlink systems so that we can get our missing persons report down. Because a lot of this, people just haven't heard from their family members for 2 and 3 and 4 days. We were able to successfully evacuate someone from Bailey, North Carolina to Johnsonville yesterday. 83-year-old man, yesterday was his birthday, was showing signs of heart attack or hypertension. So we were able to medevac him and get him out, but also delivering insulin, oxygen bottles. A lot of people, it's not just food and water and non-perishables, but it's medications that they're short on. So try.
Oh, man, this effort is amazing, seeing all these people come together. Maui families, if you remember, got $700. Helene families are going to get $750. Illegal aliens get $13,000 in EBT cards with $5,000 cash. Zelensky gets billions. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden absolutely hate Americans. Voting Democrat is anti-American. $750 for Helene families. FEMA has spent $640 million on illegal aliens, and now doesn't have enough money to respond completely to Hurricane Helen disaster affecting American citizens. Ann Vandersteel, she posted this 5 hours ago. One man pulled, she says, 1,200 bodies out of the river in Marshall and bagged them himself. That sounds like a lot. Thankfully, communities and neighbors are banding together, people keeping an eye on strangers, scoping the area. Now, she did get community noted on this. The current estimated death toll from Hurricane Helen is 166, and they say there's no evidence that one man pulled 1,200 out of a river. That really seems like a huge number. So maybe she has a different source than the people who decided to community note her. Biden administration announced they don't have enough money to help. Another American confirms he's been told, do not help Hurricane Helen victims.
48 hours, I had planned to go to East Tennessee, Irwin, Newport, and all that tomorrow. And for the last 48 hours, I've also been on the phone with EMA, operational people, trying to see who may need my thermal drone most and whoever I could assist better. And then I get a phone call and an email where we're being told to stand down. I've also spoken to rescue crews that are there right now, You know, and it's one thing I'll say about social media. Most people know, and somebody knows somebody and they see somebody. I've had emails where I've had a woman named Laura ask for help. Her brother got swept away. They have a video of him being swept away, and she's just asking for help to get him. And yet we're being told to stand down. I have heard from people, Danielle and Alex, no offense to y'all, I've heard from these two people about how he went to take generators and supplies there, and he was turned down. The water, food, stuff like that, turned down. Why? You have people that really need things. And I get it. It's such a disarray. I understand this was all so fast. But at the end of the day, man, putting a halt to everything while there's people's lives at stake that are sitting out there somewhere that don't have anything, that may be trapped, may be hurt, and you're asking people to stand down that have the capabilities to help somebody, it doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense at all. Americans want to step up and help their fellow Americans, and you got the government coming in saying no. Helicopter pilot threatened with arrest after flying rescue missions in flood ravage. You can go, Brian, you can bring it back to the after flood ravage North Carolina. Kamala is on the ground in Georgia 2 days after President Trump's visit. 2 days. Offering those who've lost everything $750.
Being met, and the federal relief and assistance that we have been providing has included FEMA providing $750 for folks who need immediate needs being met.
It's disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. Biden says he's directed the deployment of Starlink satellites in North Carolina. Didn't Trump already talk to Elon about that? Talk about copy and paste.
I've also directed the development of deployment of Starlink satellites. 50 are in place right now. More are going to be put in place so people in places like Canton can call for help and reach the ones that love loved ones who they're not sure with anybody other than that phone.
What? Yeah. Thanks, Joe. Ann Vandersteel, again, she's been on fire with these posts. What's happening in Asheville is a national disgrace. Kamala's on the ground in Georgia 2 days after Trump, offering $750 to those who've lost everything. Mayorkas says there's no FEMA money for hurricanes because it's all being used for settling illegals. Kamala missed her hurricane preparedness brief for 3 years in a row because she never thought anyone would care. Joe attended, but not this year because he's too senile. The Hurricane Katrina. And Hurricane Katrina had nonstop wall-to-wall MSM coverage, but Hurricane Helen is being swept under the carpet. There is nothing about this administration that is American or even just plain right. Here is Kamala Harris boasting 7 hours ago. Just landed in Georgia where I'll meet with families impacted. No, you're not wanted. You are not wanted. You can see here Tony's posting. The people are furious. Not only is the Lake Leary, North Carolina fire chief threatening to arrest people for rescuing stranded Helene victims, but there are also reports Red Cross and FEMA confiscating local donations, putting them into a TEMA account, which prevents donations from being used for a specific disaster. This is shameful. What a mess. Oh, this is great too. Okay, so this clip here, you see, it's totally another staged photo op for Kamala Harris. And you can see the caption. Notice how Kamala makes sure the cameras are ready before she starts slumping over in her brand new crisis jacket. Now just watch carefully. Watch carefully. See, here she is. She's looking right at the camera. She's waiting for her cue for this staged moment. Watch carefully. You know what? Maybe we'll play it in slow motion. We'll play it at half speed. Watch. See that? You see the nod? Yep. Totally staged right there. It's all a photo op for this woman. Everything. Disgraceful. What is she going to do? Oh, here's $750. Drew Hernandez. says expert helicopter pilot and his son, responding to citizens desperate for rescue. Mid-rescue, emergency authorities threatened him with arrest if he continued.
The cloud coverage is Lake Lure.
The cries for help from people stranded without food, water, or electricity hit social media soon after the flooding last Friday.
But my parents are stuck there. Their address is Banner Elk. They are in the first condo. If you receive this, please give me a call back. Thank you.
Sidham's phone started lighting up on Saturday with people begging for help.
I could hear the desperation in her voice. This is multiple phone calls I've received like this, voicemails, text messages, and you could hear people desperate for help.
Sidham and his son rescued 4 people on Saturday and spent the night in a nearby pilot's lounge, then decided to fly again Sunday morning.
I spoke with my son, which is my co-pilot. I said, hey, do you want to go back out and try to help today? And his response was, there's so many messages, I don't think we can't not go help.
Sidham and his son were headed up to Black Mountain. Flight tracking shows no flight restrictions in place Saturday or Sunday morning when Sidham flew through the Lake Lure Gap. But that was all about to change. The Sidham spotted an older couple waving for help, then landed in what's left of their driveway.
Hey, I want you to let me get in. You step out and go out, help her in, put her bag in the back, get her strapped in. I'm going to take her down, come back. I'll take him, I'll come back, and then I'll get you, okay?
I originally left my son, co-pilot, on the side of the mountain. It was kind of unstable, so I didn't want to put more weight in the helicopter to lift back off. So I left my son with the other victim, and I was just going to take one person down at the time. And you could hear me in the video talking through with the victims and with my son what we were going to do.
3 minutes away, Sidham spotted a group of rescuers just down the river. He landed and found someone in charge.
Told him my background experience, law enforcement, firefighting, pilot. He immediately started helping with coordination. He gave me radio frequencies to coordinate with them on, set up a landing area for me to come back with the other victim. And in the middle of the whole conversation and then blocking the road off, I was greeted by the, at that time I didn't know, but Lake Lure fire chief or assistant chief maybe, and he shut down the whole operation. So at that point I felt like the conversation wasn't going any further, and again he asked me to leave, and I said, hey, I have no problem getting out of your area. If that's what you want us to do, we'll leave, no issue. At that point I asked him, what was the reason I had to leave them there, and he said, again, you're interfering with my operation. I just need you to get out of the area. I said, sir, I don't know where you were trained at, but I know how my training is, and I'm not going to leave personnel behind. I'm going back to get my co-pilot. He said, if you turn around and go back up the mountain, you're going to be arrested. Wow. I said, well, sir, I'm going back to get my co-pilot. I don't know what to tell you. And he said, I'm letting you know. And at that point, he waved for 2 law enforcement officers to come over and told me that again, if I go back up the mountain, I would be arrested.
He flew the 3-minute trip back, picked up his son, and left the woman's husband behind.
I'm sure he was flooded with emotions and trying to rescue other people, and I just felt that it was best at the time to leave. So I did follow his instructions, and I had a conversation with the female victim before I left, apologizing and explaining. She was standing there. She heard the whole conversation.
Unforgivable. Unforgivable. Rescue efforts being blocked. $750 for victims, photo ops. Look at this. People in Western North Carolina have no choice but to evacuate by foot. The roads are gone. Older people who can't hike will starve or die of dehydration if no one gets to them. It's hell. I'm struggling with the reports of children being found in the woods alone. And here's another photo op. President Biden taking an aerial tour. That's what this all is for these people. It's a photo op. The Biden administration's response to Hurricane Helen is nothing short of a national disgrace. They've abandoned American citizens in their time of need, prioritizing illegal immigrants over taxpayers. FEMA's $640 million spending spree on non-citizens have left it unable to fully respond to this disaster. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris shows up late, offering a paltry $750 to families who've lost everything. This is not just incompetence, it's a betrayal of the American people. Now we want to hear from you. How has the government's prioritization of illegal immigrants over citizens affected you or your community? And remember, you can go to SamaritansPurse.org and donate if you want to support the rescue effort.